Hi everyone, this is Jackie Vitola here with my presentation on bureaucracy, the judicial system, and misconceptions. I apologize if you can hear my dog crying in the background. Um, let's see. Okay, bureaucracy. We're going to discuss the different concepts that are often misconstrued when it comes to government bureaucracy. So let's start with hierarchy and specialization. Many people might not realize that government bureaucracies have hierarchies within them, each of which has specialized divisions. Each level has its own set of responsibilities and authority, and this is to help promote efficient functioning. Like every branch of the government has a specific role that they're supposed to be doing. It's a lot like how various corporations or companies work. Like Amazon's going to have their fulfillment area, their sales, their Prime Video stuff, all of that type of thing. Each of those is a specialized area. In the government, well, let's say in your city government, you have your Board of Education, you have your Parks and Recreation, you have various social programs, that type of thing. So everyone has a specialty, but within those specializations, there is a hierarchy, and within the organization as a whole, there is another hierarchy. Okay, another one important concept is red tape versus efficiency. While bureaucracy is often associated with red tape and inefficiency, having all of these regulations and restrictions in place actually does provide consistency, accountability, and procedural fairness in decision making. This is really important and helpful because it's good to be able to know how you're supposed to get from point A to point B. If you have a specific thing you need to do, well, okay, you can go online, find this specific form, and you find out where to submit that specific form. That type of thing. That type of thing is really important. However, sometimes if an organization has been letting some of the older regulations slide, and then they realize later, oh, this is kind of messing up with how things are running because of this original rule, that's why it's important to go back and look over past rules and regulations and make sure they make sense for the current day and age in order to prevent unnecessary red tape and too much regulation restriction in a way that doesn't make sense. Okay, political neutrality. Contrary to popular belief, bureaucrats are expected to remain politically neutral and implement policies regardless of their personal beliefs. However, political influence can at times seep into bureaucratic processes. For example, a friend of mine was the principal of Sherman Indian High School in Riverside, and he worked for the Bureau of Indian Education as part of being part of that school. All teachers and including himself and any other administrators or official employees of the school were not allowed to have political bumper stickers or wear shirts with political affiliation on them because they were all federal employees. He then later switched to the Riverside County of Office of Education, a different bureaucratic environment, and the same rule pertains there too. They are not allowed to openly display their political affiliation because they're supposed to give a presence of political neutrality. They're supposed to be there for you no matter who is in office. Of course, when selecting people, although we don't necessarily have a whole lot of selection choice when it comes to bureaucracies, um, it many people are going to be guided by their own internal political compass, and people are going to be drawn to them or repelled from them based on their own personal political compasses in comparison. So, to an extent, there will be a level of politics within bureaucracy just because of how people inherently are with politics. Um, but bureaucracies do try to remain as neutral as possible. Okay, regulatory agencies. Regulatory agencies such as the FDA or EPA play an extremely important role in ensuring public safety and environmental protection. However, their decisions can sometimes be influenced by industry lobbying, leading to public skepticism. Um, I'm trying to think of, also an example of this would be like the CDC, with COVID. People became really skeptical because it seemed like um, the CDC was promoting specific things. I mean, they were based on science, but because of other people lobbying for other things, people became skeptical as to whether or not which things were actually the right thing. Um, Unfortunately, regulatory agencies are only going to be as good as the people who are regulating them. Um, but the FDA, EPA, CDC, and so many other organizations do make such a huge difference in our country in such a positive way, and many other countries try to reflect those types of bureaucratic organizations within their own because they are held to such a high standard within the US. Okay, the last one here is public service motivation. Many bureaucrats are driven by a sense of public service and work diligently to fulfill their duties. The issue, though, is negative perceptions of bureaucracy can overshadow their dedication and contributions to society. This can lead to bureaucrats feeling very jaded, feeling very much like, what is the point? Why am I trying to be a public servant when people are just thinking that I'm going to do this or that I'm necessarily going to be bought and sold by one political opponent or another, when that's not necessarily the case. They generally just want to help people. For example, like my friend who worked for the Bureau of Indian Education and now the Riverside County Office of Education. He really just wants to be able to help people learn. Okay, the judicial system. Let's talk about some important concepts and also some various misconceptions related to it. The dual court system. The United States has a dual court system consisting of federal and state courts, each with its own jurisdiction and responsibilities. This complex structure can be confusing for the average American. You will find a whole bunch of different courthouses. The city courthouse doesn't necessarily do what the county courthouse does, and so on and so forth. Each of them has their own specific um, place that they are overseeing. There's also like family law, their various circuits, and the Supreme Court. It's extremely complex. Um, it's definitely not the easiest thing for the average American, especially someone who doesn't have like a whole lot of public policy or political science background, to understand why it works the way it does. However, it is put in place to provide various checks and balances on each other and make sure not one court has too much power over another. Okay, another important concept is presumption of innocence. Despite popular media portrayals, individuals are presumed innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. This foundational principle ensures fair treatment and due process for all. It is something that is actually different from how some other countries are run. Some countries believe in you are guilty until proven innocent. But here, because we already consider you to be innocent before the trial, it has a lot more at stake to say that you are guilty instead of just already assuming you're guilty and then saying later, oh, you are actually innocent. It is a very important concept to be in place. The role of juries. Juries play a crucial role in the American judicial system by impartially assessing evidence and determining guilt or innocence. But there are a lot of misconceptions about jury duty and deliberations. It's a very complex thing, and many people don't want to do jury duty because it interferes with their everyday lives. But having the opportunity to be able to participate in such an important civic duty is really a great one. And if you are in a position where you are able to help as a juror, that is such an important thing. We need good jurors who actually want to be there and actually care about what they're doing. The appeals process. Many people don't fully understand the appeals process, which allows parties who are dissatisfied with a court's decision to seek review by a higher court. Appeals are based on legal errors rather than relitigating the facts of the case. This is generally how cases are brought up to the Supreme Court, or from lower courts up to a higher court. It's because sorry, my dog has thoughts about the appeals process, it seems. They will realize that something occurred during the trial where it wasn't argued properly or something along those lines. It's not about relitigating the facts of the case, but about finding the errors in how the law was applied. And if the law was applied incorrectly, then that would be a time where it would be brought to a different court. The last concept is legal precedent, and it looks like my slides have decided to switch themselves up, but I just spoke for like 9 minutes about the concepts and I was overall happy with it, so I'm just going to keep talking about legal precedent here on this slide. The concept of legal precedent, or stare decisis, means that courts often rely on past decisions to guide current rulings. This principle promotes consistency and predictability in the law, but can also be contentious when challenging established norms. There are a whole bunch of original court cases for, like, the Supreme Court, for example. There, like, a whole bunch of them, and then they'll end up leading to things like Brown versus Board of Education. They realized, okay, well, at the past we did say that separate was still equal, but then in Brown versus Board of Education, they were like, okay, separate does not mean equal. You cannot have separate and equal. That's automatically unequal. Okay, and now I'm going to talk about my personal growth through this course. I feel like my legal concept knowledge has been expanded through research and study in this course. I've learned more and more about bureaucratic hierarchy, the appeals process. Everything that we have learned, I think, has been extremely important and helpful, and I always appreciate expanding my knowledge base. I think this course has also been really helpful in promoting my awareness of how government functions. Discussing bureaucracy and the judicial system and other aspects of government help me think about how these institutions function and interact, which is super important for civic life. And like the project where we had to think about the road to become that specific office, I chose the state controller in California. That was something really interesting that I hadn't really thought about before, which leads me into my next thing. Critical thinking skills. I think this course has also really helped with my critical thinking skills. I've been analyzing information and learning more and more about how to discern accurate information in government and legal and political discourse. And I've learned more and more about how one road leads to another in political aspects. And this leads into the next one, appreciation for legal principles. Studying the American judicial system in particular has really fostered an appreciation for me for the fundamental legal concepts such as due process and presumption of innocence that are so crucial to how this country functions. Those are the um, center stones for building on creating freedom and equality in our country. And understanding of public service, exploring the role of bureaucracy as well as other political roles such as state controller, House of Representatives, senators, all of those things, has deepened my understanding of public service and the challenges faced by those working within government agencies, which just leads me to have more and more appreciation for their contributions to our society. A lot of these public servants are significantly don't get as much thanks as they deserve, and I think that's really important to keep in mind. Thank you so much for listening.